Well, what's going on, social media family? Once again, on this 12th day of July. Man, we are midway through July. It is another Wellness Wednesday with positive choices. Yours truly, Joe Dupree from 100 BLK, the Black Station. My good friend, Edward J. Brown from Positive Choices
What's up?
Counseling Service. Edward, what's going on, my friend?
Man, no, indeed, you ain't about to come like that. You the one been down there rubbing elbows with the who's who and the what's what of Hollywood, man. Look, we gonna spend the first part of this show. I want to hear everything. I don't want to miss. Don't leave nothing out. Tell me, how was Essence Festival of Culture, man? How was it?
Well, the Essence Festival of Culture was wow, it was Essence and it was wonderful. However, there are changes, and a lot of folks are acclimating themselves to the changes. Of course, you've heard some pros and some cons, but
I haven't
just
heard
like in
anything. I've literally been waiting to talk about this on Wellness Wednesday.
well, I'll say this: a lot of people I spoke to, and we're going to be having one of the young ladies come on our show. I'm actually going to talk to her tomorrow about scheduling her to come on our show. Her name is Anna Nyakana, and uh, and we're going to talk about mental health, and we're going to talk more and get more in depth about how a lot of things are affecting our mental health, and mental health uh, being affected by climate change.
Mhm.
This crazy weather has got some people mentally stressed out. Um, some
Do you
places
know
it's very
last
hot.
Wednesday was the hottest day ever recorded?
Yeah, yeah, it was, and you might need to get a little closer to your mic, cause
I'm
uh,
sorry. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
better.
Last Wednesday was the hottest day ever recorded.
Yeah, so you got things like that. Some places is brutally hot. Other places it is raining like never before. Floods are
Wow.
inundating parts of the country that have never seen floods before. And that along with I sit down and I had the opportunity to ask that question, how are you doing? How's your mental health? And you'll be
Mhm.
surprised how many people say, I'm glad you asked me that because we need to be concerned. The political climate's got people just really their mental health all over the place. A person told me, do you understand 5 years ago I could decide what I wanted to do with my body as a woman?
Now I
When it
can't.
co- Now
Now
I
I can't.
can't.
Yep.
I talked to a young man who is an up and rising star. He's actually starring in the new Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning, and I highly recommend you go see it. His name is Greg Tarzan Davis from New Orleans, and he said something
Hmm.
that was really, really deep to me. He said, a lot of young folks now are even confused on how they're going to go to school because affirmative action is no longer in place. So all these stressors, there's a lot of stressors out there. And plus the everyday you waking up, turning on the news, and either in a neighborhood close to yours or a neighborhood around yours, there has been somebody shot or somebody has went on to glory by violent means. Not it was their time. Somebody either got robbed, they got shot. There was a mass. There have been many mass shootings since the last time we got on here, and all of that makes you know that your mental health matters, and you
Yeah.
have to
We don't do this for no reason. You know,
right,
we don't
right,
do it for no reason.
right, and you have to start doing some self check-ins, and you're going to have to start pulling away from stuff. I've noticed lately that even social media is causing some stress with some folks because you got the Twitter war with the threads war. You got all these
Yeah, yeah,
situations going
yeah.
on, and people. Here's what I tell people: people are being inundated and literally thrown a lot of information. However, there's very few folks that is getting a lot of wisdom.
Correct, correct.
And
So
hopefully
every
we're here to
interaction you have, what are you taking away? Something
right,
positive
right,
or something negative? Yeah.
right, because still suicide, depression is at an all-time high amongst communities of color. This month is designated um, Mental Health Awareness Month for minorities. And just think about some of the stressors we're dealing with, that how the laws are changing. It's like It's like soon as we figure out a formula that puts us in a place where we feel we're winning, all of a sudden something comes up that makes you feel like, well, we're not winning. It's like now we had a point in a time that we figured out a way to elect the people we needed to put in office to bring about the positive change we wanted to
Make the
see.
changes we
Now we're
need
seeing
made.
whatever, right. And now we see whatever laws have been put on the books that benefited the greater good of all. There are certain groups of folks who feel like, no, we don't want that to happen. So it seems to be there's a new challenge every day to challenge your mental health, the challenge where you are mentally standing.
We can no longer walk around with our eyes wide shut because there's too
No, we
many
can't.
variables impacting the computer of the body.
Right.
We're not talking about our heart. We're not talking about our intestines, our circulatory system. We're talking about the computer of the body, which is our mind, and how it's impacted by so many different variables. Now, I'm so amazed, my brother, that you're down at Essence, a time that we're supposed to be celebrating our culture, the positive things, but it is absolutely mandatory that we discuss mental health because of the climate that we live in.
Oh yeah, I mean,
there would have been a time where all we talked about was what music you got coming out. What's your next project? But like you said, now you have to ask, hey man, how you doing?
Right. Are you okay? Because here's the craziest thing, and this is real crazy when you really think about it. Somebody left Essence depressed, oppressed, had nobody to talk to, and instead of them finding someone to figure out a way to deal with whatever life was throwing at them, they decided the only way that they could cope with it was to take their life. That happened. There was a news article about it. Young lady left Essence and she just felt like she was at the end of her rope. And family, right. Right. And we got to start, listen, something else I want to talk about. And I'm glad you gave me a little time here, Edward, to do this. A lot of people, a lot of folks are doing what Edwin and I do. And I highly recommend everybody who wants to get information out there and talk to folks about whatever it is they want to talk about. But once again, you are being bombarded by a lot of information. All that information does not lead to a happy ending or to wisdom. All the information you may get bombarded with doesn't make your life better. There are a lot of information bombardments out there that really will, once you start thinking about it, will make you very much feel like you are in a place of depression because you understand how oppressed you are actually from the information and how it's being given. You'll say to yourself, well, I ain't winning. So here's something I want to tell a lot of folks, and I got this. I had the grand time of sitting with the young lady who plays Ahsoka in the new Disney coming up, Miss Dawson. And she said something that really, really, really blessed me in an interview. She said, you have to protect your gates. You got to protect your eye gates, your ear gates. You got to protect what's coming into you, because she said there's so much that gets thrown out there that if you don't know what not to eat and what to eat, just like a balance of your physical lifestyle, if you're eating the wrong foods, you're going to be unhealthy. If you start intaking the wrong things mentally, you're going to be mentally unstable because of the information that's being poured into you. So I think this is a good caveat where I switch it over to my brother, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Edward J. Brown.
Then I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna go with that. I support everybody that wants to disseminate good, positive, and correct information. My brother is so right. There's so many people doing these podcasts, feeling that there's a need, so they jump out there and they do. with all of the support that I give those individuals, I want to give the people who listen to certain individuals the same amount of caution. Not everyone that thinks they're knowledgeable about a particular topic is. And it's okay to research and question someone's expertise. I sit before you every week with over 30 years in the field of mental health. We have a number where you can call and ask me questions, not just about the topic, but ask me questions about myself. I believe if you ever are seeking out a therapist, make sure you have someone that is highly trained, highly skilled in the field of mental health. And we've said this before, and it may be time to say it again. Everyone that goes to see a counselor, understand this. We are specialists. You're not crazy.
True.
Show you what I'm talking about. And I always run this by my students to see if they have basic knowledge. If you go see someone for your eyes, they're a specialist called what? An optometrist.
Correct.
You got problem with your skin. You go and see someone that specializes in skin called a
Dermatologist.
dermatologist. You have a problem with your feet. You go and see someone that specializes in feet called a
Podiatrist.
podiatrist. All right? Now, here's the easy one. My grandson, 6 years old, and he might have knew some of the ones I just did. But if you have a problem with your mouth, you don't go see the dude that specializes in carburetors.
Right. You go to a dentist.
You go to a dentist.
Right.
That is the same concept. People ask me, what do you hope to achieve by constantly speaking on mental health and talking about the struggles that life presents? And I tell people the same thing. I want to normalize going to a counselor or a therapist the same way we do optometrists, podiatrists, dermatologists, gastro doctors. We don't think if you say, yo, man, I got to go get my eyes checked. Oh, Lord, you must be crazy, Brother Joe. What do we say?
Right.
Yo, man, yeah, you need to go do that if you can't see. So, but when someone comes and says, I think I need a counselor.
Well, you know, and I listen, you gave me a little time and I'm going to take a little more time.
Yeah.
Now, here's where the blessing of Essen came to me. On Sunday, I had the awesome opportunity through a good friend of mine, D1, who is a gospel rapper, to have a moment of conversation with Dr. Jamal Bryant. And Dr. Bryant, being the wise man of God that he is and the great pastor and leader that he is, said something that blessed my soul. Because I asked him, I said, hey, man, I'm really on this mental health thing, this Essence. And I said, a podcast I do actually has made me start asking brothers. And I ask everybody, are you okay? And he told me, it's wonderful you do that. He said, who are you doing that with? And I told him. And I told him that you're a licensed clinical social worker and counselor. And he said something that hearing this from a man of God gave me hope in the church. He said, we need more licensed professional counselors in the church. Because he said many a times crises are being diagnosed by unprofessional individuals as demonic possessions. And he said, some things, yes, God is in everything. And he said, and the devil is probably trying to disrupt everything that God has created. But there are times that you don't need the laying on of hands. You need a professional person who could give you a clinical diagnosis of what's going on with you and give you the proper direction, even in the church. He said, too many times in the church, people who are in mental distress gets diagnosed with they're demon possessed. And he said, that's not a demon possession. That's a mental health distress that needs a professional to address that.
Correct. There was a time where people thought mental illness was demonic possession.
Right, right. And he said, you know, and because we're living in this world, and he said something that just really blew my mind. He said, you know what, mate? He said, and hopefully I can get him on the show soon. And he said something that just really blew my mind. He said, we got to stop trying to be like the world and then try to figure out why folk don't want to deal with us. And I said, wow, Dr. Bryant, that was deep. He said, because he said the world should be trying to do the dance that we doing in the church. Not us trying in the church to do the dance that they do in the club, to have people in the church go, ooh, y'all hip, y'all good. He said, no, no. He said, and we got to stop.
Like this hand is doing something, but you ain't really looking at what's really going on.
Right.
Over here.
And he said, and our people are suffering. You know, he said, man, I'm so happy that you are here and you're asking the hard question. How are you doing? He said, that's a hard question to ask somebody, because he said, you have to brace yourself that somebody might hit you with a truthful answer. I ain't doing good at all. I'm just here looking like I'm doing all right. I'm just here looking like I'm doing okay, but I'm not doing well at all. Then he said, then what do you do when you get hit with that? I said, well, since I'm not a professional, I said, I try to direct them to somebody who I know is a professional. And he told me, we need, and he looked at me dead in my eye and said, we need more folks like that in the church. He said, there are folks who are qualified to minister to you, but they're not qualified to counsel you when it comes down to your mental health.
You know, what we have a tendency to do is we have a tendency to forget that mental health is a medical condition. It is a condition that's treated in hospitals. You know, I mean, it's so, because it's so common, it's so rampant in our community that we have a tendency to forget. Because people are like, oh yeah, people call me all the time and tell me about their problems. That's because you messy, not because you know you're a therapist or you're a counselor. The issue is we have. I think about my pastor. He was a very good. We call each other brothers because we don't just hang out at the church or at my house. We are friends, and I can't tell you the number of times he's called me and said, "Listen, this is one that's beyond my scope of a pastor." He said, "This person is suffering from severe depression, and I think they may need to come to Positive Choice." And he doesn't feel as though he's let them down as a pastor. He feels as though he's doing a better job because he's able to say, this is beyond my scope, but I know someone that can help you.
Right, right. And that doesn't mean he's not going to pray for you. It's correct. Not that he's not going to believe God to help in the process of getting you healed. It just means that, watch this, I want my pastor to pray for me. Okay, look, two words I want to use right quick. Kinfolks, classmates, and qualifications. You could be my classmate and my kinfolks. And let me use another word, close friend. Kinfolk, close friend, classmate, qualifications. Just because you my close friend, my kinfolks, or my classmate, if I have a heart attack, I'm not trying to put a scalpel in your hand to cut and get my heart back together. Hey. I need somebody qualified.
Hey, what I say?
Certified.
Just because I got pops don't make me a chef.
Come on.
I got a bunch of tools, but I ain't no mechanic.
Come on. So
I can carve a chicken. I can carve a turkey. But you don't want me doing surgery on you.
Right, that part. So family, let's stop using the line of kinfolk. And I got this from a good friend of mine, Kenneth Boudreaux. And I kind of changed it because he said cousins. But we got to stop saying, well, I'm that's the truth because my kinfolk told me. That's the truth because my classmate, I went to class with that person. I know them. And that's the truth because we're close friends. No, sometimes you got to try the truth and find out, are they qualified to give you the information they gave you? Because once again, what we're talking about is mental health. And if you're taking the wrong information from a classmate, kinfolk, or a close friend, your mental state of mind now is messed up in the way you view this thing because you literally didn't protect your gates. What got poured into you was bad information. And if bad goes in, bad gonna come out.
Correct. Exactly. You have to be careful who you take advice from. And my students always laugh, but I always say this: have you ever seen a fat personal trainer?
Mm,
You would not want a dude that was fat in charge of getting you in shape. You would expect a person that does landscaping, you would expect if you drove past their house, for their house to look really nice.
right.
Now, let's talk about that in an all transparent moment. Every therapist that works in the field of mental health does not walk around with zero problems in their life. That's not what we're
That part.
talking about.
That part.
Okay. We're not saying that if they have problems in their own life, they're not a good therapist. That's not what we're
That
saying.
part.
What we
That
are
part.
saying, though, is if they are a good therapist, they must be trained.
Right.
You must be trained. We are not winging this. We are not shooting
Right.
from the hip, just pretending to know what we're talking. There's theories, there's techniques, there's theories of practice. There's so many different things that you must have mastered before you can walk out here and call yourself a counselor, a therapist, or someone, and that
You
bothers me because just as much as you can help somebody, the wrong person can make a bad situation much worse.
worse. And let's just be honest about it. You go to school, you go to colleges, you go to secondary schools of education, you go to places to further and watch this. I tell people there's a big difference between a life coach and a licensed clinical therapist. Oh, and I don't know why I'm going down this road because God knows this wasn't where I was trying to go tonight. But
Yeah, you
family,
about to step
we've
on some
got to
toes.
do better because
About
this
to
is
step on some
necessary.
toes.
See, I've got to, Essence showed me something. I've got to start asking the hard questions because other folks ain't doing it. I had the blessed opportunity to sit with an OG in the game, Ice-T, and I watched one of these young media people ask Ice-T, well, who's your favorite artist today? And Ice-T looked at him like, what? you know, so God has put me here sometime, and it's not pop. I'm not trying to be popular. I'm trying to make some of y'all go back and look at these and think and ask yourself the hard question that may give you a few more days, a few more hours, a few more weeks, a few more months, a few more years, that a life change can come in your mind and in your spirit and in your body that makes you have more longevity. I want to see you live a long and prosperous life. And if something I can say here make you make one change that can extend your life longer, then man, I think we've accomplished our job. We don't want to have anybody commit suicide. And if we can save one person from committing suicide, if we can save one person from being in deep depression, that is why we're
Tomorrow
here.
needs you. Tomorrow
Right.
needs you. Yeah, tomorrow needs you. We're sitting here, and what we're doing, and we did not have. Well, my intention was to have my brother talk about Essence and look at what he got away from Essence. That's what I was so hoping that he brought back. It's okay for you to question someone's knowledge. If you have a therapist, social worker, counselor, and you question their knowledge and it makes them angry, be very weary of that.
Mm.
I had so many people over these 30 plus years of my life come to me and say, well, where'd you go to school? And, and how long did it take you to get that? How long have you been doing this? We care more about who made the potato salad than we do about how many years of training do you have. I sit there and I realize that very few people know in order to be a licensed therapist, the licensing board requires you to have 20 hours of training. Listen to this, every year.
Mm.
Not just every other year. Every year, you're required to do 20 or more hours of training every year. That is because there's constant changes in the field of mental health. I remember when there was no such thing as adult ADHD. There was no such. We used to say, "Oh, that kid is autistic." Now it's called a spectrum. They're on a spectrum. Things constantly change in the field of mental health. If you are not trained, you are not as sharp as you can be as a professional. No one should ever be questioned. I had a person that I knew, and I remember when they came, and I hadn't seen them in a while. And they came to me and they said, "I'm a doctor now." And I was like, "Oh, wow, congratulations. Where did you go to school?"
Right.
And you would have thought that I cursed that person. You would have thought that I talked about their mother.
Mm.
I mean, they got belligerent. And what does that matter? And why does everybody always ask me? I was just asking. I'm sorry. You can call yourself Dr. Frankenstein if you want. I don't care. Fine. I'm not going to argue with
Right.
you about it. If you
Correct.
have individuals that are claiming a status, looking for some type of prestige, but will not tell you how they've earned that or why you should hold them in such, regards, you should be weary. People ask me all the time, what should I look for in a counselor? First things first, it is almost imperative that you like your therapist.
Right.
There's a theorist named Piaget that said a person, and I'm paraphrasing, a person that does not like their therapist, it's highly unlikely that they will engage in the therapeutic process.
Mm.
And that makes sense.
Right.
If a restaurant doesn't have good food, you're not going to go there.
You're not going to eat it.
If a mechanic doesn't fix your car right the first time, you take it back for him to do what he said, but you're not going to go to him again.
Right.
So it should be a stress-free situation for you to ask a counselor, a therapist, or someone about their background. Now, here's the horse that's been beaten 1,001 times. Could a family therapist be a good family therapist if they're not married with any children?
Mm.
Can you teach me parenting skills if you don't have any children? I look at a lot of young therapists that come out of school, early 20s, and they go on and they get their first job and they're doing parenting classes. And imagine you doing parenting classes with a 40-year-old with 2 children, and here you are, 24, no children, you're not married. They are going to question you. They are going to ask you, what qualifies you to teach me parenting? And if you've gone to an HBCU, you will have had childhood development. You would have had HIPSI classes that will teach you about different theories of development and family structure and things like that. So that when you see these things in small numbers, then you say, there's a deficit in this area. And if you do this and add that, you may find that you won't have as many problems in this area. So now do you see how we're not just winging it? We're not shooting
Correct.
from the hip.
Correct.
That we are actually trained in. So that's how a 24-year-old can teach a 40-year-old parenting.
Right. Right.
Now, of course, you're gonna get that. Yeah, everything ain't in the book though. No, everything's not in the book. But when you take the things that's not in the book and you merge it with the lessons you've learned from trained instructors,
Correct.
then you have the best of both worlds that merge together.
Right. I mean, Edward, and I can say this. I tell people this all the time, and I have become an astute student of this. You have to listen just as much as you give information, if not more. And many a time when you're dealing with folks, especially in my line of work, for example, media, we want to be the ones who have the final word or the biggest word. And I'm starting to learn that good journalists listen. And all they have to do is ask one simple question to pull out the right answer and then expound on that. You know, I talked to a lot of people this weekend before last at Essence, 4th of July weekend. I didn't get a chance. I did get a chance to hear the vice president speak, but and I'm very thankful because a lot of folks don't know
Was she at the marketplace?
she was at the global, I think she was at the global economical stage, but she spoke eloquently about the issues that us as a people, and especially Black women. And listen, you know, we really have to, there has to be some mending done here between Black men and Black women. Black men, we need to start telling Black women we need them. We need Black women. And Black women, you need to start saying that you need us Black men. We need to be kings and queens, you know, and this has nothing to do, because I'm sure somebody's about to hit me with, well, what are you saying? Or now you trying to go down this road. Hold up. I'm not talking about anybody's orientation or preference. At the end of the day, us men need these women. Us Black men, we need you Black women. And you Black women need us Black men. And at the end of the day, and even if I take the color out of it, us men need you women, and you women need us men. To be exact, if all of a sudden one of us just stop existing, we're going to become an extinct species, because that's the only way we can procreate. I hope I'm using the proper word. At the end of the day, family, this all affects our mentals. Do you know your mentals are being affected by high interest rates, decisions being made at the Supreme Court, elections, local issues? Some of you are scared to even walk down your street at nighttime because it's just that much violence going on in the neighborhood you live in. Then you have to worry about, some of us have to worry about, if I am not living in a place where there's a lot of violence, I might be living in a place where people don't look at me as a part of the community. They're trying to figure out, how did I move into this big pretty house? And now I'm scared when my children drive home, because if the blue lights hit them, somebody might say, well, there's a Black kid riding through the neighborhood. Well, it's my neighborhood. I live in the neighborhood. See, right. We have to worry about the Tamir Rices. We have to worry about the Trayvon Martins. We got to worry about things. And all that causes a mental strain. Plus, once again, as I started, and I really want y'all to get this, there are so many people doing podcasts, video podcasts, so many people who have YouTube platforms, and you're getting so much information thrown at you. Yeah. You've got to sometimes disseminate what information is good for you and what information you shouldn't even deal with, because there's information coming from the north, the south, the east, the west, and all points in between. You know, and everybody is wanting to be, let me say this, and I'm going to turn it back over to you. A lot of folks want to be popular. Yes. They want to be popular. Yes. They want to be the authority. They want to be the source. Very few folks want to be correct in
They'd rather
saying
be popular than right.
right. I mean, some things don't need to be said. Some things, there's some rabbit holes I don't want to go down. There's some questions I will not ask because I understand that the response may be more detrimental to the greater good than me saying, look at the question I asked and look at the answer I got. You know, we're getting ready to get into political season. And listen, we're gonna have to start asking the question, where do you stand on issues that affect our community? And there's nothing wrong with asking that. You shouldn't be looked
You
at
should
as,
ask.
why are you asking that question? Right. Because at the end of the day, I need to know where you stand on the issues that affect me. Because what might affect me on my side of town may not affect somebody else on the other side of town that don't look like me. And see, I need to know where you stand on the issues that affect me.
And if you
Family,
want my vote, I have the
right.
right to ask you that.
Correct. And
I have the right
we got to
to ask.
start and we got to understand the importance of who we are, whom's we are, and of our vote. You know, we got to know that. I think somewhere along the line, we're not, and I don't know if it's us, you and I, because we are now considered these gray beards aren't there for no reason, you know, but we are considered elders. So my question is, are we passing on to first of all, are we passing it on? Second of all, are they willing to listen? See, so there has to be an exchange. I tell people the biggest divide I see ain't between black and white, it's between young and old.
Correct. I
So
agree. I agree.
back to where we were
The,
at, Brother Brown.
the younger people are trying to find out where we're relevant. What's the usefulness of these elders? And the elders are trying to say, well, why should I even be bothered with someone that doesn't know what I know and don't want to learn? And for me to sit here and tell both sides, the reason you have to come together is because of the value of the information that is going to be exchanged. It's invaluable. That right there is worth watching this podcast alone. Elders are getting very tired because that's one of the things that I heard the most about this Essence Festival. The Essence Festival and the BET Award. If I see one more naked black young lady shaking and twerking, and that's all they do now. And the young people are like, well, we're gonna do what's hot.
Right.
What's the medium? There's no medium because there's no exchange. It's this side over here talking about this side over here. At some point, we have to talk about, like you said, we're talking about these podcasts, mental health. Everybody seems to want to be an expert on the topic. Hey, I understand and I don't knock anybody and what they're doing. But
Right.
for me in my house, as he said, for me in my house, we need people who are not only knowledgeable, but are connected to the community.
Correct.
When you are
Correct.
connected to the community, you feel this is where it's very important, Brother Dupree. When you're
Talk to me.
connected to the community, you feel as though it's valuable. When what has happened with a lot of the elders that detached is that they no longer look at the young people as valuable. And the young people definitely don't look at that old dude with the gray beard as valuable.
Right.
What you know,
Right.
man? You don't know nothing.
Right.
So until we start to say, yeah, we got a lot of people putting up. I watched the brother the other day and scrolling through social media, and the brother was doing the podcast. And what the brother was actually talking about was community development. And this brother was so irate and so angry. He was telling black folk, yeah, if you see them white folk in your neighborhood trying to buy up that property, You need to just shoot him. And I said, now, he may not mean that literally,
Right.
but somebody that's
May take
watching
that.
that podcast
May
they think
take
he's
that.
literal. Exactly.
Well, and that's where Brother Brown, we have to continue the fight of letting people know words have consequences. We talk about elections have consequences. Words have consequences. And just like when you squeeze a gun trigger, once that bullet leave, it can't come back. Now it may not hit its target, but once it leaves, it can't come back. And we've got to get to a place because we've got future generations that are depending on this because information is changing. I keep saying to people ask me, why do you do the video podcast? Why do you do your digital radio station? The same reason that long time ago when I was in a car and somebody had an 8-track on and this guy said, man, I heard they got these little things called cassettes, but man, they ain't gonna take the place of the 8-track. And then one day I'm rolling in the car with my cassette player, and one guy said, hey man, they got this thing called a CD, bruh. But I don't think it's gonna take the place of the cassette, bruh. And then one day they came out with a thing. They said, hey man, they got these little terabyte sticks, man, but I don't think it's gonna take the place. They literally don't put CD players in cars anymore.
Right. Everything is streaming now. Everything
right. So I've been streaming. I was streaming when everybody was kikiing. You know, I can't believe you're doing that. That just doesn't make no sense. All I do is listen to my radio.
I remember when Napster came out. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, I've been in this game a long time. I've been in this space. And guess what? I'm happy to see a lot of other folks there. I'm not a hater. I'm a congratulator. To be exact, I've got to the point that a lot of folks don't know. I consult a lot of people on how to do video podcasts and how to do digital radio stations. And I've learned that you don't have to know my name to know my value. Woo!
There you go. Yeah.
You don't have to know my name to know my value because I'm out there working with a lot of big names, doing a lot of big things. And I don't always jump on here and say that because, first of all, I'm not here to brag or boast. I am here for the greater good of all. I done had people listen. And this is another thing that strains on people's mental health, including mine. If you reach out for me and you say you want to try to find out, can we work together? Don't make me feel like it's a one-way street that I only should benefit you and you don't benefit me. Because after you call me that third time saying, oh, we need to meet and we don't meet, I'm going to start saying, well, I ain't beneficial to you until I'm beneficial to you. So no, because me and this brother here, we've been working. Me and this brother here, we get down with the get down. So much so, he saw something, I'm already in the process of getting it for him. Because why? He a paper chaser. He keep the block on fire, remaining a G until the moment he is fired. You know what it is to make something out of nothing. And I'm just saying. And if he say he saw it and he want it, I got you, brother. It's on the way.
Man, look, I think that we have.
But this brother has been.
Go ahead, man.
This brother has been with me. This brother has been with me, helped supported me, and we have been doing this thing, and we will continue to do this podcast. We'll do this podcast until the wheels fall off. Here's why. I'm not trying to be popular. I just want to help one person. I want to position myself to give the information that some may not want to give because it's not the type of information that make you say, ooh, they over there talking about what color dress she had on. Ooh, they talking about this. No, this ain't a messy podcast. This is a podcast that saves lives. This podcast saves lives. And I get it. I get it. No, it ain't. We not to mess with the dress. We not the bros with the talk. But we're here to give you the information to bring about wellness in your body because a healthy you is a better you. I tell people this all the time. We're here giving you information to give you longevity. I want to see you live a long time and be good while you living, not be a vegetable. Because there are people out there who are living, but they barely existing because their mentals are so messed up. They schizophrenic. I had a person today I was around. He jumped up and told everybody, I'm schizophrenic bipolar. And you could tell it. And I mean, family, we got to do better. Your mental health matters here, Brother Brown.
Yeah, it's just so many things on the table tonight. Tonight has been kind of like a cornucopia of different issues. One, we want you to be careful and pay attention to where you get your information. And that's not taking a shot at anybody's podcast. Just be careful where you get your information. Number two, we want you to know that your mental health, and we're going to change it because I'm in the process of getting ready to market some t-shirts for some stuff I've been writing. And we're going to stop talking about your mental health and we're going to talk about your mental wealth. Because this is
Mm,
important. This is valuable. What's going on up here is valuable. So when you see the 100 BLK positive choices mental wealth t-shirts and the mental wealth podcast, know that we are trying to invest in your mental wealth. We're trying to make sure that everything that's valuable up here is not stressing you out. Everything that's valuable up here is not causing you any anxiety. All your valuables that's up here are in order and working properly to make sure you continue to get a return on your mental wealth. These are the things that going into, this part of the year that we want to make sure everyone understands. Whether one person tune in or whether 100 people tune in, we here
right.
every Wednesday. We things jumped out and got crazy last week, and we weren't on, but we were definitely in communication with one another, trying to make sure that we were here because what we found out is that people may not tune in live, but we can tell how many people have gone back and watched the podcast at a later date.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Hold it. Not
one
only
thing
that,
that
not only that, we know how many people see everybody who's watching ain't literally clicked in. So I have tools and I already see, and we're very gracious and we're thankful for everybody who does tune in. And we're thankful for those who share this and those who go back and watch on prior days. And we loving it because at the end of the day, your health is your wealth. And we want you to be healthy. We want you to be whole. We want you to be holistically doing well. Our biggest problem as a people, to me, this is just me generally speaking, is we got to stop this. I want you to do good. I just don't want you to do better than me. We got to stop that. I want everybody to do good. And if you happen to do better than me, I'm happy for you. I just pray that whatever you do it for the greater good of all of us and to help each one of us get to a place where we're better than we were yesterday.
absolutely. So in talking about investing in your mental wealth, like we're gonna start doing, and we're gonna start making sure everyone understands the valuable material, the valuable idea. There's so much going on here that's valuable that we throw stuff away and don't even realize.
Right.
So what we decided to do when we committed to doing this podcast was giving you investment tools to invest in your mental wealth, to make sure that you understand that how you think, how you feel is important and is valuable. So we can't continue to just sit around and say, well, don't matter. Everybody doing the podcast on mental health. It's no big deal. It is a big deal. One of the things that I've always liked and always really admired was when you start dealing with substance abuse, which Positive Choices is embarking on. We're getting ready to throw our expertise into the area of substance abuse counseling. One of the things that's very profound is that when you start looking at 12-step programs and individuals that run AA groups and NA groups, those individuals are former addicts. And the reason they're valuable to that particular structure or that system is because of their knowledge of addiction. But those individuals will also tell you, you need to see a specialist. We can do a support group. And what a support group is we come together and we support one another in case you're in crisis. But for treatment, you need to see a specialist. So from that point forward, we decided we're going to put quality content into this podcast every week. We're going to put quality nuggets for you to invest in your mental wealth. We're going to put out information that when a situation comes up in everyday life, you will say, you know what? This is what they were talking about on Wellness Wednesday. This is the part where I can not be responsible for what someone else does, but only responsible for how I react. And I've literally had someone who watched the podcast tell me that. That's why I use that example. She said, I went to work and my coworker seemed to be trying to push my button. And I remember you talked about, I have no control over him trying to push my buttons. I only have control over how I respond to him trying to push my button. And that person said, I didn't lose my job that day. And we both laughed and chuckled about it, but she was serious. So if nothing else comes from this, know that, we're going to continue to put out very valuable information that if you incorporate it in your mental wealth portfolio, you'll see a positive return.
Right.
You're going to see a positive return on the investment in your mental wealth. Listening to the podcast, reading good books, trying techniques and things we talk about, getting involved in the political climate with the people who are making the decisions that determine what type of resources you get in your community. Can you imagine that? We have people who do not believe in getting involved in the political climate, but those are the same people that's making decisions on what's going on in your community. That's kind of like you going to pick up groceries at the store that somebody else made for you.
Right. And you don't know if it's healthy food. You don't know if it's good food. Right.
And for me, I got a basket full of shrimp and I'm allergic to seafood.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So at some point, you have to start looking at the people that come to you. And when they say, I want your vote, you know what they're saying? I want to make decisions for you.
Right.
That's basically what they're saying.
Correct.
I want to make decisions for you. Are you cool with that? And the first thing you should say is depends.
Right. You got to ask yourself, who are you letting represent you when you cannot represent yourself? You were talking about some good reads. This is a good read right here, family. It's a good read. It's a good read.
Uncomfortable conversation.
It's a good read.
Who's the author?
I'm gonna be posting that. The author is Emmanuel.
Sure.
Yeah. So, family, we're here to help, and we're here to do all we can to give you information and to give you guidance. So one thing I do want you to know is Positive Choices is here. So let me put this up. I haven't did it all night, and it's like I'm losing my touch. What's going on with me here? Hold on. So here it is.
Never losing your touch.
Positive Choices Counseling.org. Listen, if you and that's why we're here. This brother has a service. You can go to positivechoicescounseling.org. He is a licensed clinical counselor and social worker. He's here to help. Some of you get court ordered to have counseling. Some of you need substance abuse counseling. Some of you need marital counseling. Some of you need counseling with your juveniles, with your children. You need parenting. He takes care of all of this. And the reason I put this out here is so many times we wind up going, not saying nothing's wrong with these folks. But sometimes we just say there's nobody who looks like me who does this.
Mm.
Yes, there is. You just don't know because ain't nobody put them out there to let you know that they exist. And guess what? New slavery is if you don't know, you won't go. I'll say that again. New slavery, if you don't know, you won't go. So I am using my platform to put out the information where you will know, or at least you have a place where you can go and say, I would love to have a counselor that looked like me, who I may can relate with, because we may have came through similar situations, or we just look the same. Some folks just feel comfortable around folk that look like them. And at the end of the day, whatever you're dealing with whomever you're dealing it with, I want you to be comfortable, because that's where you will receive the best of what you need to get whole and healed. Brother Brown.
Well, I'm very honored to have met this brother, and for us going into 3 years of us doing this podcast. We started out with Mental Health Monday, and
Right.
due to my classes and some obligations I had at Alcorn, we switched it to Wellness Wednesdays. But we're going into 3 years now. We've been doing this, and you have no idea what it feels like to meet someone that says, you're doing a good job, man. Keep doing what you're doing. We watch the podcast, and it's very helpful. You guys look like you're enjoying yourself. Because every Wednesday, it's not like we don't have a million and one things to do. We choose and we commit. You know what I mean? We
That's
commit
true.
to this hour
Right.
and sometimes longer than an hour. We
Right.
commit to this hour every week. If that's not commitment, I don't know what is. That brother told me last week. He said, "Man, I'm so much going on." He said, "But we're gonna get to this Wellness Wednesday." And I was calling him. I said, "Yeah, I got a lot going on my end too. But we're gonna get to this Wellness Wednesday." So don't think that this is two guys that just have nothing to do. Like that brother said, he have a million things going on, and I have a million things going on. But we're committed to making sure you get valuable information to help with your mental wealth.
Right.
Something that can help you with your child, help you with your relationship, help you be a better you.
Right.
Simple things like helping you be a better you. We don't do it for lack of we bored on Wednesdays. We're bored on Wednesdays. That's not what it's about. So I come to you today, and I want to be your mental wealth broker. We want to help you build a portfolio that is strong, that's solid, that's plentiful, that will allow you to see not just returns in your mental wealth, but you will see it trickle down to your family. People will have no problems coming to you and say, "Man, you're doing what I'm doing great because I'm building my mental wealth." That's what I'm doing. So, brother, you have anything else you got today?
That's it, brother.
Right?
That's it.
Hey, my brother said that's it. As we say every week, if nobody else told you today, we love you. Peace. We'll see y'all next week.